Hi guys, I'm doing my informative speech on stress and I have my 5 people. There's my brother. Can you see him? Can you see, John?
Hi,
What's your name?
John Dungan, El Paso, Texas.
Thank you.
Steve Green.
Lisa Green.
Julio.
Aislinn.
And here are my 5 cards. Okay guys, thank you so much for being here today. I'm very excited to share this interesting topic with you guys. It's something that affects all of us in one way or another. It is stress. I want you to imagine for a second having a horrible day at work and you're running home late, stuck in traffic, and it's a little distracting. And your family's calling you and wondering where you're at, and you're rushing, but you're stuck. You're not able to go anywhere. When you finally do get moving, you get home, you change your clothes, you take 2 seconds, take a breather, and then it's time for your second job, your evening of cooking, getting kids to school, getting kids to sleep, and doing homework. For me, that is. That's how stress affects me in one day, on my day, and I hope you guys can relate in one way or another. I hope to give insight on how to cope, reduce, and prevent stress at work, school, and at home. First, I plan to discuss stress at the workplace. Then I will talk about stress as a student in school. And finally, I'll talk about how we bring the stress home and how it affects us there. I've done a lot of research and found studies, articles, and surveys on the topic and how it affects us. And I also have firsthand knowledge because it seems to affect me every single day. I hope you will gain knowledge on how to identify stress and learn to know the effects it has on us and how we can avoid it or embrace it altogether. Now that I've introduced my topic, let me break it down a little bit. In an article published by USA Today on April 25, 2019, a survey was done, and 46% of employees said their workload was their main stress. This was according to American Institute of Stress, accessed on May 27, 2019. An example of stress at work is you have a micromanager and he's pushing your deadlines, but he doesn't leave you alone for you to actually get your job done. A way to cope with that is a stress ball, maybe. I have a couple of these for everybody to grab if they need it. Or you can just talk to your supervisor and ask for a workload change or to take some stuff away from your table. Now that I've talked about stress at work, let me talk about stress at school. A good example is having to meet deadlines and maybe preparing an informative speech like this and having to get 5 people. That was kind of stressful. That was just an example. But a way to cope with that would be to not procrastinate, prepare your homework and on time, and maybe communicate with your teacher. Maybe they'll be able to help you get organized. Now that I've talked about stress at school, let's talk about stress at home because it seems to follow us there. In 2014, an American Psychological Association published a study that showed 67% of Americans experience stress from problems at home. So an example with that would be just like my day was, and just coming home to a messy house and everybody's just lounging around. And so I guess you can, maybe change that by having the kids clean and the husbands cook, because that would be great, right? And a way to cope with that is just to communicate with your family and make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody understands that I'm not the only one that lives here, right? Okay, well, now that I've talked, giving you guys examples of how to cope, prevent, and reduce stress at work, school, and home, I want to conclude by saying that I learned some new things with this research. For example, I didn't know that there was an American Institute of Stress or that April was Stress Awareness Month. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
Well, hopefully I was able to shed some light for you guys because a lot of people are still in the dark. And a lot of people are still in the dark about how it affects us. Because stress follows us everywhere we go and can affect all of us in one way or another. I have given you some examples of stresses at work, school, and home, and I shared some tips on how to cope with them. I also gave techniques on how to reduce those stresses. Finally, I provided methods to prevent stress from affecting our everyday health. Stress is everywhere all the time, but how we acknowledge it and deal with it can make all the difference in how it affects us. However, it is important to get help before the stress causes chronic health problems. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys have a good afternoon.